I recently discovered that my wife, whom I married 6 years ago, had an affair during her bachelorette slash yoga retreat 6 years ago. The shocking revelation came in light when I unintentionally overheard her conversation with her best friend through our baby monitor. This discovery hit me like a sudden blast of icy water on a winter day, leaving me utterly shaken and miserable. It was incredibly hard to believe that she could have done something like this, as it was completely out of character for her. When she returned from the yoga retreat 6 years ago, she appeared as vibrant and loving as ever. Little did I know that during the retreat, she and her friend, who at the time was in a relationship with her current husband, were involved in an affair with a yoga instructor. I thought I knew her really well because we dated for 2 years before we got married. I would have never found out about her affair if she hadn't confessed when her best friend came to visit. Now, I am faced with a dilemma. How can I ever trust her again if I don't divorce her? We have 2 children, and our younger one is just a little over a month old and still breastfeeding. But ever since the truth came out, my wife's stress has caused her to stop producing milk. Back when we started dating in college, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was very close-knit with a few group of friends. One in particular was her best friend and would do everything together. I believed she had strong moral values and was wife material, which is why I proposed to her after college. She also came from a loving family, just like mine, and I got along well with her parents. Looking back, we used to watch shows about bachelorette parties, and she was always vocal about how she would never believe how women cheat on their partners at a bachelorette party. She didn't even go to clubs or drink alcohol, so you would wonder why she ended up cheating on a yoga retreat she went to on the eve of our wedding. Well, at some point while we were dating, she and her best friend became obsessed with yoga. 6 years ago, my wife was completely engrossed in yoga. It wasn't just a hobby, it was a way of life for her. I remember how she and her best friend enthusiastically embraced the world of yoga, and it had a profound impact on her life. During that time, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was on a quest to get in shape and find inner peace. Yoga seemed like the perfect solution for her. She and her best friend, Sarah, connected deeply over their shared love with it. Together, they embarked on a journey of self-discovery and physical transformation. My wife and Sarah eagerly attended yoga classes together, often talking about the different styles and teachers they encounter. They spent hours going through yoga books and magazines, practicing various poses in our living room and even meditating in our backyard. It became evident to me how much this practice meant to my wife. Back then, after I proposed to her and were preparing on getting married, they wanted a kind of bachelorette party. And what impressed me the most was how they chose to celebrate in an unconventional way. Instead of the usual wild nights at clubs or a trip to Las Vegas, my wife and Sarah opted for a 3-day yoga retreat. At the time, I thought it was a calm and meaningful alternative to the traditional bachelorette festivities. The retreat happened in a peaceful countryside spot surrounded by lush greenery and sitting beside a calm lake. They stayed in snug cabins, and my wife shared that every day was filled with yoga sessions led by skilled instructors. She took lots of photos, and the beautiful setting made their yoga practice even more serene and satisfying. In the morning, they would wake up with the rising sun and join in a sunrise yoga, something my wife had always wanted to try. I remember her telling me the fresh and crisp air and the gentle sound of nature created a feeling of pure happiness. Following the morning sessions, they would go on a long walk around the retreat ground, talking and forming connections with other attendees who also cherished yoga. I remember her telling me that the retreat communal dining hall serves only vegetarian dishes. I remember her explaining to me that her bachelorette yoga retreat was about more than just physical fitness. It was a journey to find balance, inner peace, and forge lasting connections with like-minded individuals. Now I truly know what kinds of connections she was forming. She claimed that the experience was a good transition into marriage life. Now I know why. That's all she shared with me 6 years ago about her yoga retreat. No mention of the one-night stand she had. When she returned from the yoga trip, We got married. After we had our first child, we moved 400 miles away because I found a well-paying job. My wife's job allowed her to work from anywhere, so she was accustomed to working from home. It was during this time that my wife gave birth to our second child, and it happened during the post-pandemic period when my employer started allowing us to work from home. I used to share the same home office with my wife, so she had a two-way baby monitor set up in our home office. About a month after she gave birth, Sarah, her best friend, decided to pay us a visit. During her visit, my wife and Sarah would spend hours chatting in the baby's room, and I was on the other end of the two-way comm, unintentionally overhearing their conversation. From the very beginning, I got the feeling that they had become a bit careless and had forgotten that I was always in the home office, where my wife kept the other end of the baby monitor. That was when I heard Sarah revealed a surprising twist to their Bachelorette yoga retreat experience. According to Sarah, it all started when they met a charismatic and attractive yoga instructor. They discussed his well-built physique and his confident demeanor, mentioning how his presence brought a sense of calm and inner strength that captivated many participants, including my wife and Sarah. I believe they called him Alex. The first time they met Alex was during a morning session of Hatha Yoga, and he was the instructor for that class. Both my wife and Sarah found themselves quite taken with him. As the days of the retreat passed, my wife and Sarah attended more of Alex's classes. It was after one of these sessions that they invited him to their shared cabin. I wasn't entirely certain whether both of them had a physical relationship with him, but based on what I heard, my wife mentioned that he was incredibly attractive, so I couldn't help but conclude that something intimate may have happened between one or both of them. Sarah's confession left me shocked and bewildered. I couldn't fathom how they could engage in such behavior with a stranger they had just met. What made matters even more challenging was that I had no inkling of any of this when my wife returned from the yoga retreat. Everyone had praised her for looking so refreshed and renewed after the retreat. 6 years later, Sarah still spoke about the experience as if it was a positive one. I couldn't help but wonder if this was a one-time incident or if there was more secret hidden. I felt heartbroken and overwhelmed with emotions, not knowing how to react. I had never suspected my wife of cheating before, but my gut told me to look for signs of more affair. As they say, once a cheater, always a cheater. During my period of investigation, I checked her phone, emails, and text messages as far back as I could find. I even looked to see if she had any ongoing communication with the yoga instructor, but I found no evidence of such. It nerved me, and my wife noticed. She was still taking care of our newborn and required my help around the house. My emotions were all over the place, and I found myself yelling at her for things I shouldn't have been. She cried frequently, trying to understand what was troubling me. Eventually, I couldn't hold back my feelings any longer, so I decided to confront my wife about what I had heard. She broke down in tears and admitted that she had made a terrible mistake. I asked her for all the details, and she confessed to everything. She told me that they invited the yoga instructor to their cabin, but she claimed that only Sarah fully engaged in intimate relationship with him. She claimed that she had started but felt uncomfortable, so she stopped and left the room. While Sarah and the instructor continued, I asked her if there had been any other instances of infidelity, and she insisted that this was the only time and that she took full responsibility for her actions. Even though this happened 6 years ago, she didn't try to downplay it or make excuses. She owned up to what she claimed was a mistake. I didn't believe her for once in our relationship. The trust I had for her had been broken. I needed some time to process everything. I couldn't bear to be around her, so I asked her to go and stay with a relative, taking our baby with her. However, the following day, I had to let her back in because I couldn't allow our 1-month-old child to suffer. Right now, we are sleeping in separate rooms. I haven't shared this with my family members yet, and I'm torn about whether to tell Sarah's partner since she was in a relationship with her current husband. I feel like he should know, but I also know that exposing her would likely damage another relationship. My wife insists that this was the only time she and Sarah cheated, and I can see that she's genuinely remorseful. Divorce have never crossed my mind, as before this revelation, I considered our relationship to be perfect. I have talked to my best friend about the situation, and he advised me that given the fact that we have a new baby and our relationship had been perfect with no instances of cheating since the one 6 years ago, it might be best to give it a few months to see if my feelings continue to bother me. He suggested that if it does, I could then consider separation. Right now, I am finding it difficult to look at my wife the same way because I feel deceived. If I had discovered this 6 years ago, I might not have gone through with the marriage. But now I have two young children to take care of and a demanding job. To complicate matters further, my wife is no longer producing milk due to the stress she's experiencing. Our baby is constantly crying because he's hungry, and we are trying to supplement his diet with newborn milk, even though it's not ideal because his immune system isn't strong enough yet. Separation would be devastating for our family, and our friends and family would be shocked because everyone has always seen us as a perfect couple. So I am seeking opinions from Reddit on what you all think I should do in this difficult situation. Thank you for making it to the end of this story. Please share your opinion on the comment section and don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you and